All right, I'm going to start up. Clayton, you said you could hear me okay. Donald, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You're the only two on right now. We may have more people joining us. So as always, if we do, I'll just quick stop off and let them in. Do you see my email that I sent out to you this morning right now? Either one of you, can you answer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we're going to do basically three things today. First, I'm going to go over the second iteration of this Pablo's Pizza Palace that I went over with you yesterday. I made some changes to the first one. I created a second one that partially works, but I want to talk to you about some of the problems I had with it. And after we do that, we'll go over Chapter 11, which actually won't take that long. I do want you to know that for Chapter 11, there is a written test. There is no lab, or there are no labs for Chapter 11. There are no homeworks for Chapter 11. It's on debugging. All right. There will be nothing on your hands-on test from Chapter 11, other than you might want to use the principles that are in there to debug your own programs. All right. So again, we're going to first go over the second iteration of this pizza program that I sent to you. Then we're going to go over Chapter 11. Then I want to write down for you what I'm going to expect for the homework, labs, etc. for Chapter 10. All right, and that's the stuff that'll be due this Sunday. Finally, we'll end up by talking about what we'll do for the rest of the week. All right, so with that said, let me go in here and close a bunch of these windows, I guess. All right, so here is the pizza program. I'm going to bring it up right now. And like I said, I want to talk about some of the things that I did and some of the foibles and problems, etc., that I went through. First, let's deal with the original one. So this one right here, it's Pablo's Pizza Palace. So that's the original one. Let me bring this up. Oops, wrong file. Where are you? There you are. So the way that it's different now is if I run this and I come in and add a location, and let's change the pizza type just so you see it and the size, and let's add all of these different toppings. Now when I click purchase, notice it goes over to a new page. I guess I have that highlighted. I shouldn't have, but it goes to a second page. So our first page had in it all of the stuff here. The second page, I moved the billing stuff over to a new page. Plus, I can jump back again to the main form. Now, the only problem with jumping back to the main form is I've lost everything that's been in here. All right. And is there a way to fix that? I'm sure there is. I didn't take the time to figure out what it was. But if I click purchase now, notice there is no choose a location. There just choose a location. So I get my error message until I go in and actually do physically choose a location. Now I should get a special extra large with no extra toppings, and you'll notice that's exactly what I do get. So first, let me talk to you about what I did with this one, and then I'll quickly show you what I did with the other one. All right, and then we'll go right into Chapter 11. All right, so looking at the code here, one of the things that I did was I came through in here and I said, okay, how can I make this a better program? All right, so right now, pretty much everything that you saw from the example I gave you yesterday, everything I'm highlighting here, everything all the way down to about right here is the same as yesterday. So there's nothing new in there. And since I talked about that yesterday, I'm not going to talk about it right now. All right, let me double check and just make sure. Okay. All right, so I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to talk about that. So let's talk about what is new. All right, and that's displaying the total bill. Now, what I decided to do was rather than have the stuff show inside of the text box that is right here, and we could do that. There's nothing wrong with doing it there. But again, what I decided to do was instead to go and put that stuff to a different form. So how did I do that? Well, I want to go back and show you, because I guess I sort of didn't lie, but I wanted to tell you these two things, this output string and the total cost rather, I made them public where previously they were private. And I made them public and I made them static so that I was able to copy their values over to the other form. I want you to understand, I want to say that again. These two variables, this output string, which prints out all the pizza information, and the total cost string, which has got the cost of the pizza type I chose or the size I chose, plus any possible additional toppings. I made those originally, they just said string output string, decimal total cost. I made them public and static so that I was able to share them with the other form. All right. Okay. So why does that matter? Because once we do come down here and we've got our display total bill, now the total cost, that's the same as before. But what I did then was I hid the current form by doing a this.hide, and the second form that I created, which is right here, not much to it as you can see, all right, but I called it FRM bill because it's the bill for the pizza, all right, and where is it? So I said, create a new instance of that bill form and then show it. So this is the type, FRM bill, so it's got to be that name, but I can call this anything I want. I could call it Ralph and just say Ralph.show. I'd be stupid to do that, but I could if I wanted to. So that has to be the same as this. Now, if I uncomment these, I'm going to get the results on both the current or the main page and on the bill page, which is no biggie one way or the other. All right. But just to show you that, so I'm going to do a file, save all, and we'll come in here and we'll change everything up. So I'll make this a sausage, medium, and we'll add all 6 toppings. You'll notice that if I don't pick a location, I still get my error message that says you must choose a location. So let's choose Troy this time. All right. And you'll notice that once I do that and click purchase, boom, it pushes me off to the second page, Troy, sausage, medium, all 6 of the extra toppings, and our total price with tax. So that works just fine. What you may or may not have noticed, though, is when I did that, let me do it one last time, because you're really not going to be able to see it now. All right, but you'll have to look really quick to notice that it appears in here. All right, whoop, I didn't choose the location. Thought I did there. So it appeared, but it was so fast that you really didn't even see it. All right, and that's why there was no sense in actually showing it anymore on that particular form. All right, and once we come back again, I'm sure we could set it up, probably make those static or do whatever that we could have saved the stuff that's in here. So in case, oh, I forgot to add this topping or I didn't want this topping, we could have done that, but I didn't. All right. So what else did I do in here? Well, if you'll notice, if I go down to the bottom right now, my call to exit the program is now commented out. In fact, I've got a call to exit the program in here as well, and that's commented out. All right, I still have this global.exit the program, and we'll go over what that is in a minute. Global.exit the program. So what did I do? I came in here and I right mouse clicked on my project. All right, on my project, and I chose add, and I chose down here new item. And what I chose in here was something that was just called, where is it? Code file. And I gave it the name globals.cs. So I'm not going to do that because I already have. When I did that, it literally gave me a brand new empty file. There was nothing in it whatsoever. So I had to fill that up myself. All right. Now, what I did, just so you know, if you're like, okay, you did all this, I don't get anything you did. I literally stole what I did from this URL. I made changes to it, of course, but it was on daddyweb.com, programming, etc. And it's called in there declaring and defining global variables in WinForm using CNET. So what did I do? I added this. I added a different namespace that I called globals because this is going to hold any global routine that I wanted to put in here. All right. And then I said public, I said public status class global. So I did this and the curly, added the comment, and then keyed in all of this. And what is this? This says I'm creating a brand new class that's called global. As of right now, it contains my exit the program method. It contains nothing else but the exit the program method. So why am I even showing you this? Because once I jump back, we'll look at both of them, but I'll jump back to our main page here. Now, when I typed in using, you'll notice that if I type in using, one of the things that's in there is globals. That's the thing I just added. All right. But if I want to be able to use something that's in global and what I want to use is exit the program, then in here, I had to say global.exit the program. The file is named globals, but the actual class is called global. So I'm saying I want to use the global class and I want to use the exit the program method in there. And that is exactly what I'm doing. I'm saying go out to the global class and call the exit the program method. And I did the same exact thing in here. So there's the call, and up at the top, there's using globals. Now, there is a big benefit to doing this, and that is if for some reason this changes and I want to put something else in here. So in other words, I'm gonna make a real simple, just little change. Do you really want to exit the program now? Just something like that. All right. Now I've changed it in one place. I'm going to save it. I'm going to run the program again. And notice if I click exit, do you really want to exit the program now? Question mark, question mark, question mark. So I've got a central place, so to speak, that I can use to hold any methods that I want to share between the different morning, John, that I want to share between the two programs. All right, I should say between the two forms. All right, so that's in here as well. All right, then looking at the actual bill that's in here. So I'm going to close this globals and this is my bill. This is really, really simple. All right, I literally copied over the original label that I had in there, but I put a dash bill on the end. I added a main form button and I added an exit button. Our exit button now again calls global.exit the program like we just mentioned. Shouldn't need that open anymore either, or that. So let's just go to here. And now let's look at the main form. What did it do? Well, this dot hide, and then I'm creating, this is the original form, FRM Pablo's Pizza Palace, and I called it PPP for Pablo's Pizza Palace, equals new FRM Pablo's Pizza Palace. And then I call ppp.showDialog. All right. Now, the only other thing that's in here is in the load event. So when the form loads into memory, I did this. I called prepare and display bill. Now, this, just so you know, you can tell by its, hopefully by its grayness, this is a text box that I made read only. And I wanted to have in here line breaks. The reason I'm telling you that is in here, I had to change this from a \n, and there should be one there too. That's why this one didn't work. All right. So I have to change that from a \n to a \r\n. But the key takeaway is please look at these two lines. I'm saying I want to set this local variable local to this form called output string equal to what I had defined in the other form dot output string and the total cost to what I had defined in the other form total cost. So those variables are now available to me in here. All right. Then I just said, okay, put in that output string that I basically got passed in, and then the total price, and we also did the tax in there. So put in that total cost. All right. So in other words, fill up the form, choose a location, click purchase, and now show me all of my information. Wentzville, pepperoni, medium, extra cheese, pepperoni and olives, and the price. Now we can click exit. And again, we get that, do you really want to exit the program now? Question mark, question mark, question mark. If I say yes, it'll end it, but I can also go here and go back to my original form. So what I attempted to do in here was to show you how you can go back and forth from one screen to another or one form to another, and how you can share information between the two forms. This is done differently depending upon the type of language you're using. For instance, all right, if it's a year from now and all of you in here are taking the AWD1100 Java Android programming class, these aren't called forms, they're called activities. And when you want to share information between activities, you have to create what's called an intent. It's what you intend to do, and you have to pass that information that way. So in every language that allows you to have, any GUI language like this that allows you to have multiple forms, we'll do it in a similar yet different way. All right. Now I'm going to go over the other one. So I'm going to close this and I'm going to close this. But before I do go over the other one, which again, I'm going to do right now, does anybody have any questions on that one I just went over with you? Any questions? All right. Then I'm going to bring up the other one that I created, and this only partially works. All right. What I wanted to do was I wanted to come in here and I wanted to programmatically add these radio buttons, these checkboxes, and I wanted to programmatically add this. I couldn't get that to work, but if you'll notice, if I run this, so let me change my startup project, and if I run this now, there's goods and bads. I have now programmatically come in and added the four radio buttons for pizza type, the 4 radio buttons for pizza size, and the 6 checkboxes for pizza toppings. That's the good news. The bad news is, and I didn't spend enough time on this, probably as much as I should have, technically, I didn't add group boxes in here. So notice if I click on one of these and I click over here, how it changes. It does not recognize that these are 2 different sets of radio buttons. So that was on me. This works just fine. I can select 0 or more of these. This I couldn't get to work. So I manually did it in the way that we did it yesterday, but I want to quickly show you the code, even though it doesn't totally work. All right. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to show you that you can programmatically add things as well. All right. So I'm going to show you the code that I put in here, and it looks pretty much vastly different from what I did before. All right. What do I mean? Well, that's the same. But notice now what I did was I came in here and I created 4 string arrays to hold all of our data. One called pizza types, and you can see what's in there. One called pizza sizes, and you can see what's in there. Pizza toppings, and you can see what's in there. And locations, and you can see what's in there. It's all the information that previously I had added directly to the controls. All right. Then after that, I created 3 different arrays, 2 radio button arrays and 1 checkbox array. I tried putting the locations in as both a list box and as a drop-down list, and I had problems populating both of them, so I just commented that line out. Now notice radio button, bracket, bracket, RB pizza types equals new radio button of size 4. Why 4? Because the pizza types, there are 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would be RB, eventually, RB pizza types 0, RB pizza types 1, RB pizza types 2, and RB pizza types 3. In a similar way with the sizes. I'm not going to run through those. Then for the checkboxes, for the pizza toppings, it was 6 because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different types. All right. And then I changed it in my load event. I call create radio button arrays because there's 2 of them. Then I called create checkbox array. And then I called create list box array. But since it didn't work, that routine, just to show you, it's in here someplace. Well, it is in there someplace. It's empty, I believe, but we'll see in just a second. All right, maybe it's not. So here I came in and I created the first set of radio buttons, and I'm going to go through this. Then I created the second set of radio buttons. Then in here, I created the 6 checkboxes. All right. And one thing that I found in here, was the documentation on doing this and creating an array of these stinks. There was not much documentation whatsoever. I went and looked online and I couldn't find anything that I thought was exactly helpful. All right. I did watch a 6-minute long video, which was okay, but it wasn't that great. And that's where I grabbed this from. All right. So let's go through these. So we call create radio button arrays right there. And this is the whole routine for that. So what am I doing here? Well, I'm looping through 4 times here and I'm looping through 4 times there. It took me a while because I guess I'm stupid, but it took me a while to realize I originally had this as in 1 loop. All right. And what you'll notice is if I come back and I put this into 1 loop, so I'm going to come back here. I'm going to make this LCV and this and this. I'm not trying to waste my time or yours, but I just want to show you something here. So LCV, let me fix all of them quickly. All right, that's now been changed to LCV. But if I come in here now and do this right below it, and I'm just going to change quickly all these J's to LCV, so please bear with me. All right. Then if I put it into 1 loop like this, oh, come off it. What are you telling me that there's an error? So I want to view my error window down here. Error list. There we go. Oh, I left two of them as I and J. So LCV and LCV. All right, that got rid of my errors. As you can see, there are now no longer any errors. But now by putting these two things together, I saved a little bit of code. So save all, and it should look exactly the same as it did before. And it does. All right, so what did I do here? It's easier to explain it like this. All right, and again, I grabbed this off of I just literally Googled how to programmatically add radio buttons, or how to add radio buttons to a radio button array, C#, and what came, a 6 or 7 minute long video came up. I watched 2 or 3 of them, and this was the best one. So what are we doing here? Well, this is saying create a new radio button. So I'm going to have radio RB pizza types 0, 1, 2, 3, all right, because it's going through here 4 times. So that's going to create the 4 radio buttons. This says go to my array called pizza types. And those pizza types, remember, that holds cheese, sausage, pepperoni, and special. So grab the one and copy it into the radio button. I want that to be its text. Here paints it on the screen, and that's what I got from watching that video. And here says to literally add it. And then we do the same exact thing with the other one. But the problem is, since I don't have them in group boxes, even though they're not physically located next to one another, when I run this, some are here and some are here. As far as the system is concerned, they are 8 radio boxes, radio buttons that belong together. That's when I choose one, I cannot, and I choose another one, I lose them both. All right, and again, I'm sure there's a way to do that. Believe me, I tried a few different things and nothing worked. Probably isn't that hard. I probably just didn't look for the right thing, or maybe try hard enough, or whatever. I don't know. All right, so then I do a similar type of thing down here with the checkbox array. Radio buttons and checkboxes work very, very similarly to one another. But the reason that I couldn't create the checkboxes in here is I have 4 radio buttons in each one of those, but I have 6 checkboxes. Otherwise, I could have put that in here as well. I think that would have worked just fine. All right, but we're doing the same thing, is what I'm telling you. I had to do a little finagling here. Notice that's 575, that's 345, and that is 115. That was where they were pushed over to the right on the screen. This is how far down they went. Notice that's the same each time. And I told each one of these that got created to move down 25 pixels from the one that was previous. All right, and again, I got that from that small video that I watched. All right, the list box array, I did use this, I guess, and all I'm doing in here is I'm telling it to add the different things into the list box. All right, but I couldn't get that to work programmatically. I could get adding the stuff, but I could not get actually going in there and creating the drop-down list programmatically. I couldn't get that to work and then populate it. I had problems with it. All right, so these change a little bit. All right, so notice again, these don't work right. All right, because if I've got a pizza type set, then I don't have a size set. And if I have a size set, I don't have a type set because all 8 radio buttons are the same. So I changed that around a little bit. All right. And what should have happened is if I got to that point, it should have said calculate pizza bill. And I don't even remember if I had time to go in here and actually make some changes into this or not. So this was iterate through pizza toppings. What is that doing? Well, that was going through here, and it was saying if one of those is checked, for every one that's checked, add $1 to the price. All right, so that would have had that, but I wouldn't have had the prices. I guess I thought I did this, but I never wrote it. So I would have put in here, let's see, add pizza type price. It'll give me an error because that hasn't been written. right? So I would have had to have come in here and said private void add pizza type price. All right, then in here, I would have checked to see which of those radio buttons was checked. All right, and for instance, if the small radio button was checked, then to the total price, I would have wanted to add that. If the medium was checked, that. If the large was checked, that. And if the extra large was checked, that. All right, and I didn't do that. All right. I guess I thought I did, but I didn't. It got late last night. I went to bed. All right. So again, I'm not asking if the stuff in here makes sense or not, but I just wanted to make that available to you so at least you have seen how you can programmatically put things on the screen. All right. And I mean, you've got a copy of it now. You could play with it. If I have time, I'll go back and add things and try to make it work. All right, I may be able to do that. I may not be able to do that. So that is part one of what I wanted to go over today. Does anybody have any questions on either iteration for Pablo's Pizza Palace? All right, then I'm going to put that to rest for now and do an exit on here. And I'm going to jump back into our textbook. All right. Now, John, did you get in? Are you in here, John? All right. It sounds like, for whatever reason, the link, when I'm sending it out every morning, doesn't seem like it's working. So let me try sending that link out again. I know he had trouble with it yesterday as well. All right. So hopefully John will be able to join us if he's not in here already. It's got his, no, he's not. John, are you here? Your mic is muted, so if you are, that's fine. All right.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good. All right. So the next thing that we want to do then is we want to go over Chapter 11 in the test. In the book. Now, remember, again, there will be nothing from Chapter 11 directly that's on your test. I thought of doing this. I've done it in the past where I give you a program that has bugs in it, all right, and ask you to fix the bugs or find the bugs and fix them. All right, and maybe that would have been a good exercise. And people usually either got it fairly quickly or they had nothing but trouble with it. And I didn't want somebody spending hours to try to debug something. You probably spend enough time trying to debug your own programs. So they mentioned that back in Chapter 3 and back in Chapter 5, we talked a little bit about break mode. Remember, there are 3 different modes that you can be in when you are running a C# program. Right now, if I bring this up, and let me go back to the original one, close this and close this. Oh, I got it. Close this. So right now, when you look at this, I am in design mode. All right. If I come in here and I go to view code and I put, let's just say, for example, I don't know, right here, I put a breakpoint right there on that line. I don't know why it's not letting me do that. It should. There we go. So I put a breakpoint right there. I'm still in design mode, but when I run the program, it is stopped here. I am now in break mode. If I tell it to continue on, now I'm in execute mode. So those are the 3 different modes that I can be in when I'm running a program. All right. I just showed you the breakpoint, so we'll talk about that again in just a bit. It says, as your apps get more complicated, debugging gets more complicated. All right. Now, the idea of debugging and finding bugs, are there errors that are in your program? Now, there are 3 different types of errors. the compiler, basically the system here, does an excellent job of finding the first type, which are syntax errors. You've seen these before. You probably have made them before. If I leave off my semicolon right there, all right, you might notice that down in my error window, it now says semicolon expected. And if I double click on that, it even brings me and it shows me where it wants it. All right, but if I'm belligerent and I don't do it, and I click and I say save all and I say run, I get a message that comes up that says this: there were build errors. Would you like to continue and run the last successful build? Almost always, you should just say no, and you should fix the error. So putting that in, that just fixed what? That just fixed a syntax error. Other examples of syntax errors, if I misspell this, all right, there is nothing that's called selected INDX. There is one called index. All right, so you can see those are errors in language. They are analogous to if you were writing a paper or, for one of your classes, like a written comm paper, and you left off periods or you misspelled words, etc. All right, there are other ways that you can bring these kind of errors up too. I mean, right now, this is expecting a number. So if I said hello, all right, and I got off, now it says cannot implicitly convert type string to int. All right, so that's another syntax error. All right. Now, the second type of error that you can get are runtime errors. They're called runtime errors because you don't get them until the program runs. So you may have already seen one of these. I may have even shown you one of these already. But if we go down here to where it says display total bill, I'm going to come in and purposely put in some code. I'm going to take out right away. But I'm going to say this: int x equal 10, int y equals 0, int z equals x divided by y. Message box dot show. I don't think this is ever going to get hit. Z equals plus z dot toString. Like I said, I don't think that's ever going to get hit, but let's run it and see. No, there are no errors, as you can see. So syntactically, this is now correct. But I'm going to say a file, save all. Let's run it. And I'll just leave it like that. And notice I get what I get right away. A system divide by 0 exception. We had a whole chapter we just recently went over on exceptions. So I could put this in a try-catch block, and if it found a divide by 0 exception, I could handle it that way. But regardless, this is a runtime error because syntactically it was correct, and the program didn't find my error until I physically ran the program. All right, so that's the second type. The third type of error is a logic error. All right, and sometimes logic errors are very easy to fix. Sometimes they're not. So if I came through here and instead of this, instead of plus, I accidentally put I put a plus sign in here. All right, so now I'm adding total cost plus tax rate. All right, and I come in here and I say, well, I know the special is like $18.95, so with tax, 19 bucks, it should be 20 or 21 bucks. I choose my location and I click, and it's got $37.98. Well, that should send a signal out to me something is pretty screwed up. All right, so I'll exit, and you can see that indeed I come back in here and I think, oh, I'm adding, I should have multiplied that by the tax rate, not added it. All right, because if the cost here was $18.95, I'm adding to that 1895 plus about 7 cents or something like that. That's why it was so big. So that is a logic error. They're the hardest to spot because, there are a lot of times when you get done and you find them, you're like, oh, geez, how could I have done that? We all do it. All right. So that's what this chapter is about, is working with the different types of errors. All right. It says, in fact, you've done much programming. You know that debugging is often the most difficult and time-consuming phase of programming. The good news is Visual Studio offers a lot of tools for testing and debugging, many of which are discussed in this chapter. So it's not a particularly long chapter. It's 24 pages, 25 pages or so. So let's start going over it. So how to set debugging options. All right. Now there is an options dialog box that you can bring up, and I believe, I could be wrong here, that it's under Tools, Options, and it brings that up. All right, I think that's the one that we're looking at here, but let's double check. So they went under Debugging in General, so let's see if we can find that here. Oops, it'd be here. So there's Debugging, and there's General. All right, so that's how you get there. Tools, Options, Debugging, General. And it shows you your debugging options. And I'm not going to lie to you. I just use what we get by default. It's served me well in the past. All right, ask before deleting breakpoints, break all processes, etc. Enable address level debugging. Some of this stuff I'm not even sure what it means. But if we go back to here, oops, sorry. Right there we go. It shows different things that you can add. All right. Now, one of them here says exceptions setting window. So probably something that they're showing in here is working with that window. All right. So it says to display the debugging options, use the debug options command. Well, I showed you another way to get there. By default, the edit and the continue feature. In fact, let's do debug options. Let's follow their lead here. So debug, let me close that. Debug options. All right, that brought you right to this. All right, I also showed you another way to get there, which was tools, options, debugging. All right, but either way, we're in the same place. All right. By default, it says the edit and the continue feature are on. This lets you change code while you're in break mode. What does that mean? That means that if I'm running the program and the program poops out, so to speak, I can change it without having to stop my program run. Some programmers don't like that. They like to only change it when they're in design mode, basically. So you could turn that off if you wanted to. Then it says to display the exception settings window, do a debug Windows exception settings command. Let's look at that one. Debug. I don't see it. Well, see if we can find it this way. Tools, options, debugging. I don't know if in here there's a Windows exception or if in here, or if they moved it. Windows forms. Sometimes what happens is they move things around between different versions. I'm not going to worry about it, but let's see what it says. All right. It says by default, an application will enter break mode only when an exception is thrown and there's no exception handling code for that exception. However, you can change that by checking or unchecking the box to the left here. All right. So I'll let you find that yourselves. I've never used it. I think it shows. Although you should be aware of the options in the options dialog box, you usually won't need to change any of them. And I agree with that. All right. So how to work when you're in break mode. All right, so we're right here. And again, if this has not happened to you already, where you tried doing something and you get an error, all that means is, in all seriousness, is you haven't been doing it long enough. It happens to everyone. We all get stuck where we put in something we didn't mean to put in. So as it says here, there are 4 ways that you can enter break mode. Number 1 is what I showed you. Force an unhandled exception to be thrown. That's what I just showed you with that divide by 0. Second, all right, set a breakpoint and rerun the application. All right, I showed you that. Third is to debug. Now, notice on here when you do this, it says there's 2 ways of doing it. You can debug, step into, or press F11. I'm not going to try it with the F11 because yesterday when I tried it with the F1, it kicked all of you guys off of my team session. I don't know if F11 would do anything or not when I'm inside of Teams, but I'm going to try to choose a debug step into. All right, so I've got my program here, and I'm going to do a debug step into. All right. And what that is designed to do is to step through your program a line at a time. So when your program starts to run, you can see it goes to main. If I do another debug step into, I can do that. I'm not going to keep, usually when I'm not on Teams, I just keep hitting F11. It's a neat feature though, because it allows you to see how you're going through your program a line at a time. Let me try hitting F11. Hopefully I won't kick you out. Okay, so it brought something else up. All right, but if I was not in here, that'll go away, I think, in a minute. But if I was not in here in Teams, I could also keep hitting F11. But this would be kind of laborious, but I could keep doing debug and step into, and you can see what happens. I'm not going to keep doing it, but you get the idea, or at least hopefully you do. And you can see that I am in break mode here. Now, if I'm like, I've had enough, I can then click my continue button and boom, it'll jump by everything and put me into basically into execute mode. All right. And the 4th way is to choose Debug Break All while the program is executing. All right. And again, as it says, while it's executing, that should get you out of, basically anything that you're in. So if my program is executing and I do a Debug Break All, see what happens. I don't know. Whoops, I don't want that open. I don't know exactly what will happen when I do that. So let me close that. Sorry. It's called clicking the wrong button. So, all right. All right. So it was a Debug Break All. So let's start running the program. And I'm going to do a Debug Break All. All right. And that, again, you can see it put me right here. All right. I've never used that before, so I'm not sure exactly what that's going to be doing. All right. So that's running through those. I'm not going to read to you, but it tells in here what happens when you enter break mode and when you enter the other ones that are in here. All right. I tried to demonstrate them for you because I thought it would make more sense to do that. All right. How to work with data tips. Well, when you do go into here, and I didn't show you this before, so let me bring that back. Again, I'm trying to show you things that I think personally are worth your while to see. You may or may not agree with me. All right, but I'm going to come back into here, and where we did this before and we did the cost, the total bill, I'm going to put in exactly what I put in before. So int x equal 10, int y equals 0, int z equals x divided by, x divided by y, and I don't even think I need to put in that message.show. So I'm going to do a file, save all, and I'm going to run the program and choose a location and then purchase, and it gives me an error. Now, We've looked at this before, but notice there's other stuff you can bring up. View details. So this is what it's showing you here, for lack of better words. It's kind of showing you the program stack in here. It's showing you what values have been set and what they're set to. All right, so there's, for instance, there's the stack trace. Here's the type of variables. So right now you can see what do we have in here. We've got our message is attempt to divide by 0 of type string. Our source is Pablo's Pizza Palace, which is a string. We can even click in here. All right, and there's visualizers if you want to get even bigger views of this. All right, so that's the view details. Sometimes you might want to do this, copy details. Why? Because I just click copy details, and if I run out here now and paste, this shows me everything. Now, this is what I'm looking for, but sometimes when you're debugging a program that's quite complex, you don't have an idea of where to even start. So when you do this, you typically want to do something like this and search for exception or error or something like that. So that's another thing that you can do. All right. Then there's start a live share session. And I believe they'll probably say it in the book here, but I believe that if you do that, they'll actually try to give you online help for that. All right. Again, I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what happens. All right. So that's all that. See if they say anything in here about live. So those are the data tips. All right. I don't see anything about the live share session, so you can feel free to read that, of course. Breakpoints, I showed you how to set them. A couple things about breakpoints. You must set a breakpoint in an executable line of code. So you can't set it on a comment. You can't set it on a blank line. I believe if you try setting it on a blank line, it'll find the nearest executable line and reset it. I don't even care. All right. The thing to realize is when you call or set a breakpoint, that breakpoint runs before that line of code is executed. So if I wanted to see something in here from this for loop that they're showing, I'd probably set the breakpoint down here so I could see my future value. The advantage of setting it in here, all right, is, or where they've set it right here, is it's going to step through this 12 times because there's 12 months. All right, I could check every single time and get a listing of everything that was in there. Okay, so it's I think the easiest way is to just click in that gutter area. I guess as it says, you can press the F9 key. I've never done that before. You can remove them one at a time, or you can click debug, delete all to remove all of them. Same with disabling them. When you disable a breakpoint, it does not run, but it remains in place if you try to re-enable it at a later time. All right, okay. Again, you can set a breakpoint only at a line with an executable statement. When Visual Studio encounters it, it enters break mode automatically. If you want to see all your current breakpoints, you can do a debug Windows breakpoints command. All right, it says the window is most useful for enabling and disabling breakpoints. I don't even use it. I just do it the way I've been showing you. If you point to a breakpoint in the margin indicator, two icons appear. The first shows you that breakpoints window. The second lets you enable or disable. Again, I don't do it like that, but there's nothing wrong with doing it like that. Next, controlling the execution of an application. So let's look at the different things that are shown here. The start continue, you know what that is. We do it this way. You can also hit F5, but please don't do that because, again, weird things can happen if you're in Teams on a meeting like this and you hit one of the function keys. So I'd recommend doing this. This is your break all. This is your stop debugging. You should be familiar with those. All right, this is a restart. So as it says, try to restart the application. This, notice with that the right arrow, it says display the next statement to be executing. All right, the ones you're probably going to use the most in here are these three, and then the run to cursor, but let's look at these three first. The first one is step into. I've already shown it to you. All right, and it executes a statement at a time. I guess there is a shortcut too on the keyboard. The next one is kind of neat. All right, it says execute one statement at a time except for called methods. All right, so basically step over, if you are calling a method, it calls it, but it treats that, even if it's 100 lines of code or more, it treats it like it's one line. So when it says step over, it means execute it as though it's just one line of code. All right, and step out executes the remaining lines in the current method. Why would step out be important? Well, if I've got a breakpoint that I'm setting inside of a loop, even that future value one that I just showed you, and I'm doing something, so right here, if I'm looking in here and I'm doing this over 10 years, how many times is this going to run? It's going to run 120 times. I probably, after running it 2 or 3 times, I probably figured out what the problem is. So if I do a step out, it'll basically run through all the rest of those loops for me. All right, so I'm not stuck in there anymore. Run to cursor is kind of a neat one, because what you can do is you can put your cursor on a line, and then you can choose the run to cursor method from the code editor shortcut menu, and it'll run until it gets there and it'll stop right there. Why is that important? Well, if oh, that worked, but I want to check a couple lines down. So you just move your cursor a couple lines down and you do the run to cursor again. All right. All right, and the explanations are here. I think that I've done a decent job of going over them. Again, not my intention to read to any of you. All right, I don't know if I've told you this before, but you know, every fall and every spring we have an in-service, and one or more of the presenters will have a PowerPoint presentation. All right, and it's on a big screen, and I mean a big screen, like a 100-foot screen or whatever. Yet one or more of them always seem to read everything on every PowerPoint. I don't like to do that. All right. How to use the debugging windows. There's a locals window that you can use to monitor variables. All right. So notice here, this is the locals window. Why is this important? Because you can monitor this and you can tell it to run through, and this will update as you're going through up here, and it'll show you the value of all the local variables, or all the variables that are local to the routine you are in. This can be very helpful, because if you noticed in here that the investment went from 100 to a million to 100 million, probably something is screwed up. So you kind of, it can give you a way of knowing where to start looking. You bring it up, as it says, by doing clicking the locals tab, or the way I do it in here at least is the debug Windows locals method. All right, so again, if I come through here and let me undo this now. In fact, let's leave it in. All right. It's going to give me my error. You already saw that. I'm going to click that. Now, if I come in here, let's see. Debug. Well, I'm looking for it in here. There should be a tab otherwise for it. Show next statement, step into. So you can see all these: step over, step out, show threads and source, debug toolbar options. No. Well, there is a way to do it. I just offhand don't know. I'm going to quickly just try one thing, and that is I'm going to remove this. All right, bring that down. So this is now correct. All right. And I'm going to try to run this. Let's see. Now, what I should be able to do when I come here, it's going to push me right there. You can see that. But if I went back to the original one I gave you yesterday, you can bring the locals window up in here. And the reason, again, you might want to do that is if you are, this is especially helpful when you're trying to find logic errors that you just can't figure out. All right. All right. There's also an autos window. And it says it's like the locals window, but if you've got a lot of variables, The autos window only shows you information about where you currently are. So it only shows the variables that are directly related to the statement you're currently at and the one before it. All right, you can also set up watch expressions. What's the difference? A watch is set basically on global things. All right. So we just looked at here, we looked at the locals window, and those are for local variables. The watch window will allow us to watch anything we've declared as being global in a program. All right. So as it says, it lets you view or the values or watch windows while an application is in break mode. All right. And you can add expressions to it. I believe they have even changed this, and it's in, I'm sure it's in here someplace. Here, with Visual Studio 2019 or later, you can search for values and you can specify the number of layers deep. But what you can do in here, I believe they've changed it in here, that if you've got a watch window in here like this, you can literally go in and manually change the value. So if I set a breakpoint there, oh, that's wrong, manually change it, remove the breakpoint, and boom, you know, go right back into debug mode and it'll have the new, or not debug, to execute mode and it'll have the new value. Again, these are basically used, the stuff that's in here is basically used so that you can find logic errors and kinds of errors, and almost always it's a logic error. There's an immediate window that you can use that you probably never even knew you had before. All right, so let's do this. Let's come in here and I'm going to come and set a breakpoint right here. All right, and then I'm going to start my program and okay, click purchase. Yeah, you must select a location. That's fine. All right, and it shows me here. Now, with one of these, probably is under view. I don't know if there is an immediate window under here or not. All right. But there is a way in here that you can bring up your immediate window. Who cares? Well, with the immediate window, again, I don't see it in here, but I know that you can bring it up. And with the immediate window, what you can do is you can literally go into this immediate window. It's just a little window. It's almost like a DOS window, but it's white in color. And you can type in question mark, and then, for example, the name of a variable. And it'll give you the current value of that variable. Let's see if they say how to bring that up in here. Debug Windows Immediate. All right. But mine, when I'm clicking debug, Windows isn't one of the ones that's showing in here. So debug, oh, there it is, Windows. Immediate. There's the immediate window right there. So if I type in, for example, I don't know, question mark, total cost, and I hit enter, it says $18.95. That is currently my total cost. All right, and I know that's probably not real easy for you to see here, but it's right there. I can even go and do my own math in here if I want to. So I could say question mark, 56 times 12. Don't ask me why I'd want to do this, but I can. All right, so that's the immediate window. And I wish I'd have seen that window thing before, but going up to debug Windows, that's, you can bring up a bunch of the other stuff that I kind of went through quickly before. All right, get rid of that. Come on, stop the run. There we go. All right. There's a call stack window. The call stack window is important because the way that you can use this is it shows what was the last method to be called and what was the method basically that was called that and what was the method that called that, etc. And when you show it like this, it's called unwinding the call stack. It can be important because, again, when you're trying to find errors that seem very hard to find, you can go in there and do a dump basically of your call stack to find out what was the last thing that was called, what called that, etc. And you can see that's from debug Windows call stack command. All right. How to use the call hierarchy window to navigate through all your code. I've never used this, but there it is. It's kind of like the call stack, but it's a little bit more detailed. As it says, it displays the calls to the methods, properties, and constructors of anything that you select. All right. So if you want to make sure something is being set and it appears as though it's not, you can do that. There's an output window. There it is in here. All right. So if I, just to show you this, I'm going to purposely put an error into my program here. Go back to that line that we had way up here before. And I'm going to remove the semicolon. I'm doing that on purpose. Saving, and I'm going to run the program. And it comes in and it says, would you like to continue? Well, in here, typically this is the error list, but it also doubles as this window, this output window where you can get information. All right, it's going to appear down in there. And I believe debug Windows. All right, there's the output window. So there it is. All right. So all this is showing me is the results of the run when I ran the program last. But if something were to have gone haywire, this can be helpful. This is something that we might end up using when we go into the database portion of the class and something just doesn't work. All right. All right, you can write information to that output window as well. It's very similar to what I just showed you. I'm not going to do that. There's these visualizer dialog boxes. All right, so here's an example. You right mouse click on here and you choose text visualizer, and it's showing you again a more detailed description. So it says all string values that are displayed by the debugging window have a visualizer. They call it a magnifying glass to their right. And you can open it to find even more information. All right, so that's it. Now, I'm going to keep you for about 15 more minutes. Why? Because we're actually going to be done after that. So I want to do what I did yesterday, but I want it to make a little bit more sense today. So if we go back to the top here, you will notice, and I mentioned this already, there are 1, 2, 3 homework problems for Chapter 10. They are first, convert lengths, second, process lunch orders, third, add a second form to the application. What I'm going to do, not right now, but I will do this for you tomorrow, is I'm going to build this form for you, and I'm going to go through and do this one. All right, I have not done it. I have not looked at it a bit. I will go back and try. Do they give you names to use? I don't remember. Doesn't look like it. I'm sorry, it's the one here. This is what I'll do this one for you, 10-1. So this is meters to feet, kilometers to miles, etc. So we're going to put these different options, miles to kilometers, kilometers to miles, etc. We're going to put these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 options will go in here in this drop-down list. All right. So it says you'll add the code to a form that converts the value in this that the user enters based on the conversion type. All right. So this will be our from type. This will be our to type. Whatever we choose here, the from will go there and the to will go there. All right. So it says open this project that's in the starts directory. All right, I'll grab that one. Cool. Display the code in the form and notice the rectangular array, etc. Use the drop. I'm going to just follow all those steps with you tomorrow. All right, if you want, try it yourselves. So you will not have to do that one. So homework. So chapters 10, 11, homework. 10-1, we will do as a class not assigned. All right, 10.2. You will do and turn in. So let's take a quick look at that one. And 10.3, we'll look at in just a second. You will do, and I'm going to put in here edited. You'll see what I mean in just a second, and turn in. So 10.1 I will do for you tomorrow morning as soon as we start up. All right. And then 10.2, this one you will do. So you will create this. Notice there are 1, 2, 3 group boxes. The text for the first group box says main course. The text for the second group box says add-on items, 75 cents each. The text for the third group box says order total. The first group box has 3 different radio buttons in it. I'll call mine rad, or I would probably call mine rad hamburger, rad pizza, and rad salad. And this would be the text. All right. And then these would be CB for checkbox. So I just maybe call this CB lettuce, CB ketchup. All right. Maybe CB toppings, CB condiments, and CB French fries, something like that. So that's in that group box. And in this group box are what? 3 different labels and 3 different text boxes. When you click place order, it's going to check and see which one of these is checked. You should check so that if nothing was checked in here, if nothing was checked, you should give an error message. You should say, hey, you must check a main course, and then just return. Now, it's kind of stupid, but technically you could have a salad and you could put lettuce, tomato, and onions for that salad, ketchup, mustard, and mayo for that salad, if you wanted to. Same with pizza. All right. We could do that. So how could you keep that from happening if you wanted to? If they chose pizza or they chose salad, you could disable these 2 text boxes. I'm not going to ask you to do that, but you could if you wanted to. And then have all of them enabled for a hamburger. The French fries, you'd always want that to be enabled. So again, using the examples they have, the subtotal would be the checked one, the $6.95, plus the 2 checked here. So 75 and 75. So $6.95 plus 150 is $8.45. Then they're assuming a tax rate of, they tell you in here, it's like 8% or 7.5%, whatever. There it is, 7.75%. So you take that 8.45, you multiply it by 0.0775, and you get 65 cents. All right, for the total, you add these 2 up, 845 and 65 gives you 910. I would expect these to be read-only text boxes. I would expect these to be formatted so that they are formatted in currency. And all that happens when you click place order. Exit should do that. If you want to add a clear button to clear these out, or to set one of these or whatever, you can do that, but you don't have to. All right. I'm asking the question here. Does anybody have any questions on what I'm asking you to do for 10.2? Anything? All right. Then for 10.3, rather than you creating a new project and doing all this garbageola here, what I want you to do is where this says change percent, I want you to put that in here. So you'll have a change percent button. If you click the change percent button in here, it should bring up a form that looks something like this, where you can change the tax rate. And once you change it and click OK, it should automatically change in here as well. So I'm sort of having you do a hybrid from what they ask in 10.3, but so you don't have to do a lot of extra work putting it into 10.2. So my question now is, does anyone not understand what I'm asking you to do for homework problem 10-2? Anybody? So looking at this, I've said for chapters 10, 11 homework, and let's just make it 10. There is no homework for 11. So 10.1, we'll do tomorrow morning as a class. It will not be assigned. 10.2, you will do and turn in. 10.3, you could either do these as two different projects or as one project. I don't care. I would do it as one project because it's easier. All right? And I don't care what you call it as long as I can figure out what it is. So that's those. So that's the homework. So let's look at the chapter 10. All right? Let's look at the chapter 10 labs. All right. And there are two sheets. One of them I told you, you can totally skip. So let's figure out what those are. So the one in here, I don't want this one, I want the other one. The one in here, I'm going to bring up the other one right now. All right. I don't remember which one of these it is, but I will in just a second. So open. So this first one that's in here is called CH10 Labs New. So we want the P2 one is what we want in here. This one. All right. This one that is called, I'll write it down so I don't screw it up this time. So I'm going to type in here, you do nothing from. And that one is called CH10 underscore P2 underscore new underscore labs dot docx. You do nothing from that particular one that's in there. And just to say it again, whoops, that one has got 3 problems in it. Student list, student directory, and student courses. The reason I'm not having you do any of those is they all say create a student class, which we don't go over in here until chapter 12. We may end up going back and doing this one in chapter 12. I don't know yet. So you don't have to do any of those 3. Do not do student list, student. So again, I'm trying to make sure that you guys don't screw this up. I want you to do the right stuff. So don't do that one. Or that one. Or the last one. All right, you don't have to do any of those. So you do nothing from there, so don't do these. All right, so on the other one. So you, oops. You from the other one, and the other one, so let me close this. So the other one is called CH10 underscore labs underscore new. Not P2 new, but just new dot docx. All right, so that's where we will do some of these from. All right. Now, when we look in here, there is Lab 1 Superheroes. There is Lab 2 Job Database. There is Lab 3 Clock. And there is Lab 4 Multi-Search. All right. So which ones are we going to do? I'm going to have you do Lab 1. Now, Lab 1 at the bottom here says create a hero superclass. No, we haven't done classes yet. So you will create a drop-down list with 5 or more superheroes. The stuff that we provide in here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of information, 6, I guess. So you can have a string array called superhero name, another string array called superhero likes, another one called superhero dislikes, another one called superhero power, another one called superhero biography, and another one called superhero hyperlink. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different string arrays. Each array will have 6 elements in it. Again, a name, a like, a dislike, a superpower, a biography, and a hyperlink. Other than that, program must contain the information there. Dropdown must be populated programmatically. And if you go, I can't do that. Yes, you can. I already showed you how to do it in that pizza example today. It's not hard to do. Dropdown must contain an example for no superhero. All right, hint no. Well, you can just put in here, choose a superhero if you want. When the user chooses an option, display all the available information for that superhero. Here's a hint, all right, that if you look in here, let me go back to here. If we look at our thing right here and you look here and you double click, it brings up the selected index changed. Why am I showing you that? What that is saying is every time, I'm just going to put a message box in here. All right, and I'm going to put a message in here that says, you just changed indexes. Now I could print out the index, but I'm not going to. Index changed. All right, and if I run this now, all right, you just changed indexes. Boom. Notice when I come in here and click, there it did it again. So every time you change the index, that message is going to pop. Why am I telling you that? Because we can make anything at all we want to have happen when you change that, including changing what it is populated into those different arrays. You will also want to at least try to create an array. You can make this a picture box. All right, I'm going to let you look at that. And if it turns out that's too difficult, then don't do it. All right, this might be a good one for us to do as a class tomorrow. I'll think about it. We'll see. All right, the next one, I'd like you to try this one. This is a job database. Program must contain 5 industries in a drop-down list. These are 5 industries. Program must contain information about different jobs. So the idea is if I choose information technology and click search, it should show me some links for IT jobs. If I choose mechanical engineering, okay, again, it should show me those. Now it says create a job class and an industry class. You're not going to be able to do those. All right. I'll let you try to work on that one yourselves. This next one, I mentioned this yesterday. I've had people complete this and tell me I learned a lot, but man, is it a pain in the butt. I'm not going to make you do that one. All right, so lab 3, you don't have to do. Lab 4, you do have to do. But let's put a change in this. All right. So we will edit lab 4. In other words, notice you can either search by first name or last name. Let's change this so we've got 2 radio buttons that are in a group box. One that says first name, one that says last name. All right? And just have a button here that says search. So let me go back to the beginning. I'm sorry I'm taking so long to do this. Maybe we will do this one here as a class. All right, so lab 1, superhero database. All right, that means I better try to do it tomorrow morning because otherwise I'll probably end up with egg on my face trying to do it with you, but that's okay. So let's see. Lab 1 superheroes, I'll put here done as a class And that'll be Lab 1 Superhero. What does that mean? Again, not assigned. So that's the first one. All right. The second one, Jobs Database. Try to do this yourselves. Using arrays, drop-down lists, etc. All right, so you will try to do that one yourselves. The next one, this LB3 clock. Feel free to try it. I've never tried doing it. When people have had problems, I'm going to be honest with you, I've got the author's key. I don't normally look at the key. I don't typically like the way they program, but I've looked at that one. All right, so this Lab 3 clock. I'm just going to put here, not assigned. All right. And finally, the fourth one, the last one that's in here, multi-search. Try to do this yourselves. All right. Instead of using 2 text boxes, use 1 text box, the search term, and 2 radio buttons in a group box with first name and last name on them. So you will be assigned 10.2 and 10.3. And tomorrow morning, we will go over 10.1. You will be assigned LB2, the job database, and LB4, the multi-search, but we're changing around the requirements for that. No one's going to be assigned, all right, this clock. And tomorrow, we will do the superhero one as a class. So I'm going to grab this thing that I've got right here, and I'm going to grab this and save this as a file. And I'm just going to call it CH10-11, even though there is nothing for 11, homework in labs. I'll tell you what, I'll call it homework-labs-written tests. All right, and in here, I'm just going to come up to the top and put in written tests, chapters 10 and 11. And for those who must do both of these. Now, I will send everybody this file, but from what I just went over with you, does anyone have any questions on anything I just went over with you? Anything I've gone over with you in class today? All right, I will send this to you, all right, along with the link to today's presentation, which is going to be about an hour and 40 minutes long, and it'll be sent out probably within about 15 minutes or so. If there are no questions, you can start working on this stuff. I'm not going to tape anymore, but I will. So I'm going to stop my tape, but I will be here in Teams. It's still the best way to get a hold of me is to email me. All right. There are no questions. I will talk to you tomorrow where we'll go over these problems. See you then.